All right. Good afternoon, morning, good evening, wherever you may be. I'm Landon Popovic back here with Empire State of Sports. A lot to unpack here. A lot of negatives, some positives for New York sports. Um, at 1 o'clock, I do have a guest coming on, Keith Mcpherson from WFAN, the nighttime radio host. He's going to be on from 1 to 1:30. Uh, but let's just start off for the first 30 minutes. I'm gonna go through a few things. So I wanted to start off with the Giants because I feel like they had a very disappointing game on Sunday. Despite like you're obviously like Giants fans aren't expecting to win, but with the fan favorite Tommy DeVito back, everyone I think had a little bit more excitement going into this game. I know a lot of people that were at the game. Some people from John Boy Media, Talking Giants, the host was there. They all seemed pretty excited to at least maybe see how this new chapter for the New York Giants is going to unfold. But it went worse than even when Daniel Jones was a part of the team. Obviously, I touched on the fact that Daniel Jones was benched last week. A few days later, he was released and from his contract, and coming this week, he could sign with whoever he wants. I think tomorrow's the cutoff day. He's going to be off of waivers, and he will be officially a free agent, able to sign with whoever he wants. The Cowboys have been rumored. I really think that would be really funny if on Thanksgiving we have Tommy DeVito versus Daniel Jones, because I am 100% positive with the way that the New York Giants have been playing these past, obviously this year, but the past 10 to 12 years since they won the Super Bowl. Um, it would be probably Daniel Jones' best game in his career if he were to play for the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving. That game, I think no one's excited for. You obviously have Cooper Rush, the backup for the Dallas Cowboys, going at it uh, against, well, now the starter Tommy DeVito for the Giants. But coming into the season, he wasn't even the number 2 string quarterback. He was the number 3. Which I talked about last week. I don't really understand the fact of signing a guy like Drew Lock to $5 million and then not playing him. But it is what it is. We saw Drew Lock come in for a few snaps too on Sunday, but um, it's it's nothing that I don't expect from the Giants. That I expect from the Giants. It's all that the Giants have been about. They've been taking every step wrong for the past 10 years, and it just continues. I mean, they're repeating what happened with Odell Beckham with their rookie receiver Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors is your key piece to your future, and you made him really upset on Sunday. He had one target in all of the first half, and that one target was the biggest play for that half. It was a 22-yard reception for him. And when there was the wide receiver meeting on the bench, we saw him alone while the other receivers were talking with the wide receiver coach, because I think he's feeling a little isolated. He's all he wanted and all he said in his interview last week when they benched Daniel Jones and it came out that Tommy DeVito was now going to be the starting quarterback, that all he wanted from a quarterback was for him to get the ball. And when you target him once, he's obviously not going to get the ball. He did land up having 9 targets um, for the whole game and about 70 yards, but he's the guy you want to build around, and you really want to see what he has. And people talk about the draft upcoming. I want to touch on that later, especially with Keith, because I know he has his opinions on it. I don't really think the Giants should go after a quarterback. He does think that, but definitely something I'm going to touch on with him. But I want to get Travis Hunter, and I want to see what Malik Neighbors can do first, so that we have a solid base to see what this offense is going to be like in the future, especially with Tyrone Tracy too. I saw Devin Singletary get the red zone rush, which also was disappointing to me because I feel like we're just seeing what Tyrone Tracy can do. He's the leading rookie rusher, and you didn't give him the ball nearly as much as you have the past few weeks. I feel like you got rid of one veteran, but you're now still leaning towards the other veterans. You have to put yourself in the same attitude regardless of the player, regardless if it's Daniel Jones or Devin Singletary or any other veteran that's on the team and has been around Daniel Jones. He's obviously been upset with a lot of these veterans I've heard have been upset with Daniel Jones getting benched, but they need to get over it. They need to realize that we need to look towards the future. I know Dexter Lawrence has said a few things, and I love Dexter Lawrence. I think he's one of the best defensive players in the league, especially what he does at his position to have as many sacks as he does. But the Giants have been disappointing all around. I'm not even going to give credit towards the defense that I think has been playing fairly well. Obviously, on Sunday they gave up 30 points, but they only have one interception. The next fewest, I'm pretty sure, is 7. That's really embarrassing for a team that was expected to have at least an elite level defense. Just overall, a really bad game for the Giants. Like I said, I'm going to touch on them a little bit later too, but just for now, that's what I have to say about the Giants. Moving on to the Jets, they were obviously on a bye this week. If you could lose to the bye, I'm pretty sure they would find a way to. They already have talks of a new coach. Obviously, Rex Ryan back in the 90s was their coach, and he had a QB by the name of Mark Sanchez. And I feel like Jets fans, even back then, knew that if they even had a competent QB, a replacement level QB, that they would have been able to make a run at the Super Bowl, and they were the favorites. They had this elite defense. They had an otherworld defense back in the 90s, and it wasn't Rex Ryan's fault. And the fact that they fired him back then, and the fact that, to me, he even wants to come back is a little surprising to me, because I feel like it would be the opposite, that the Jets would want him back and he wouldn't want to come back. But Rex Ryan has been very open to the fact that he wants to come back. He wants to finish what he started back then with a new group. And obviously the Jets really need this new this just a whole new picture. I've been saying it from the start that it wasn't anyone else's fault outside of Aaron Rodgers. It was Aaron Rodgers' fault all year, and to act like it wasn't is super silly. And now we're seeing the organization even lean into that. They said that they're either going to bench Aaron Rodgers, or they're gonna place him on IR, or place him on outright waivers. Whatever it is, he's not going to be the quarterback. And I feel like they should have done that earlier in the season, because obviously they have all of these talented guys: Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Sauce Gardner. They have all of these people, and Aaron Rodgers wasn't able to take advantage of it. And I feel like if they would have maybe even looked externally sooner, they could have been in a position where they could have made the playoffs this year. And now you have no idea what your future holds. You have no idea who your head coach is going to be, who your GM is going to be. That's another thing that happened last week. The Jets fired their general manager because apparently it was his fault too. This is something that really aggravates me with the New York sports market. I feel like all of the fans blame the coaching. They blame the general managers. It happens a lot with the Yankees right now, and it's happening with the Jets. Uh, you can't be blaming the coach and the general manager every time something goes wrong. At some point, you have to point to the players on the field and hold them accountable, because it seems like this year, not holding the players accountable on the field has been the Jets' downfall. And now the organization itself is finally starting to see it. And like I said, if they would have went to another quarterback earlier in the season, they might have had a chance maybe of at least having a foundation for their future, maybe not making the playoffs, but a foundation for their future. Now they have 6 or 7 games left, and they have all of these holes to figure out: a coach, a quarterback, the two most important people that are on the field. You don't know who they're going to be next year. That to me is the most disappointing aspect when you talk about the Jets. Is they were completely oblivious to the fact that they needed to at least think about their future outside of Aaron Rodgers, because you knew after this year there was a chance you weren't going to have him. And it's just embarrassing to me that they're blaming all of these other figureheads of the team, of the organization, what they've been doing for the past few decades since the last time they won a Super Bowl. Really, is they're blaming the wrong people. And to see them now blame Aaron Rodgers, it's too little, too late. It's just a complete and utter disappointment for the Jets this year. And I have a feeling they're not even going to go with Rex Ryan, just because of the hubris and the attitude that that team has, and that they're too full of themselves to go back to a guy that they fired back in the day. And it's just so disappointing to me that this is what the Jets organization has come to and what they put their fan base through. So I'm gonna move on to the New York Rangers. I said last week that the Rangers defense wasn't very good. Some people outside of the show have pointed out to me the Rangers defense is the eighth ranked defense in the NHL. And I don't care what the Rangers defense is ranked. I have a set of eyes too, and I can see that the Rangers defense is not playing well. They lost 6-2 versus Edmonton the other day, and they're blaming a guy they shouldn't even blame. It came out this morning. They're looking to trade Chris Kreider. Why are you looking to trade a guy that has been probably your most consistent piece? He's your cornerstone. He's your franchise guy. He was supposed to be the next Mark Messier, and you're blaming him. Out of anyone, I don't know why that's who they're blaming. They said that he has an upper body injury. I don't believe it whatsoever. I think this is them trying to get him off the ice so he doesn't get injured, so they can trade him and shop him around. It makes no sense to me why the Rangers are blaming Chris Kreider. Why do you want to trade a guy that has been your franchise cornerstone for years since they made the Stanley Cup in 2014? I really just don't understand it. They're blaming the wrong people, and it's going to cause this team to get even worse than they are right now if they were to trade Chris Kreider. And I really just don't understand the direction the Rangers are going in. I mean, you let up 49 shots versus Calgary. You let up 47 shots versus Edmonton. You're not giving your goalie a chance to save the shots he should save. It doesn't matter who's behind the net. I don't care if it's prime Henrik Lundqvist or Igor Shesterkin right now. You're not giving the goalie a fair shot. Igor saved 46 out of 49 shots versus Calgary. Like, that's absurd. I really just don't understand why the Rangers can't see the true issue that's in front of them. I feel like it's just a curse when it comes to New York sports where the organizations are so blind to what the actual issue is. And they sell us on the aspect of winning, but what they're really selling us on is the aspect of hope. The hope of winning. We haven't won since the New York Giants back in 2012. And it's not getting any better. If anything, it's getting worse. The organizations are either too blind or too arrogant to realize the true issues that these teams are facing to fix them. And they'll blame people like Chris Kreider instead of the people that are actually causing the issues on the ice. It's just embarrassing to me. I mean, we saw Mika score a few goals, and to me, it's a so what. The team just still hasn't been playing well. Like, I don't even want to talk about the positives because of how overwhelming the negatives have been. And I just don't understand where this organization is going, why they blame the wrong players, why in New York sports in general, we blame the wrong people when we should be blaming other people on the ice, like Mika, like Truba, like Keandre Miller. Like, there are so many people on the ice that the fans can even see. I feel like even someone that doesn't watch hockey can see what the true issues are for this team. And we're blaming people that don't need to be blamed. I really just don't understand what path the Rangers are going down. Are they going to go for a full rebuild? Now, like that, I don't understand either because you still are one of the top teams in the Metro. If they would just simply put the accountability on the right players and not on a guy like Chris Kreider, I feel like a lot of their issues would simply go away. But I just don't see that from this team, from this organization, even from Peter Laviolette. I don't feel like he's holding his players accountable, and it's just embarrassing from a team that a few years ago made the Eastern Conference Finals as such a young team and such a promising team, uh, to to completely collapse in the span of 2 years and almost be at that stage again, where it's gonna be a full-blown rebuild if we don't blame the right players, if we don't hold the guys on the ice accountable. Like, Chris Kreider should be the captain right now on this team, not Jacob Trouba, and the fact that they wanna trade him away and not the captain that hasn't done anything for this team is just embarrassing. We're repeating the cycle all over again, where we're getting rid of coaches like Gerard Gallant. They're probably gonna get rid of Peter Laviolette this year if he doesn't win a Stanley Cup. When I feel like it's not even his fault, and it's just a complete disaster there too. I feel like that's just how it's been the past few years. Moving on to the New York Knicks, they did have a 4-game win streak last week. Obviously, great to see from the Knicks. There was a game where Cat and Brunson combined for 70 points, which is awesome. I talked about it last week too. What we really need to see from the Knicks is them hold this level of play until they get their guys like Mitchell Robinson back, like Precious back, and if if they can do that, I feel like they'll be putting themselves in a good situation going down the stretch where we still will have a chance. Yes, we're playing somewhat mediocre right now, but I feel like that's the best we can play without Mitchell Robinson, without Precious. Our bench is very thin right now. Um, Obviously, we have Cam Thomas, who has been a very promising rookie. Um, the whole Knicks bench really has not been, or not Cam Thomas. Who is it they have on their bench? Cameron Payne. That's who I meant. Cameron Payne. Um, but they have some of these guys on the bench who have been promising, and they have somewhat been filling the shoes of Precious and Mitchell Robinson. But when you only have two people on the bench, and when that whole second line almost is out, like the whole bench players are out on the court, which rarely happens with Tom Thibodeau's teams, but it does happen occasionally. There's no help for the few good players on the bench, um, like Deuce McBride and and now like Cameron Payne, and it's just it's mediocre, but the Knicks fans have to think, when we do have Mitchell Robinson back and when we do have Precious back, that, hey, like, these guys are gonna have help. Help is on the way. It's not like a dire situation where things are only gonna get worse. Things are only gonna get better for the Knicks. Obviously, something can happen that could derail the whole Knicks season, but you can't think like that, because those are things you can't expect. You can't count on, like, you can't really count on players to be otherworldly outside of Jalen Brunson or Karl Anthony Towns. To do that is silly. But overall for the Knicks, it's been a decent start for them, and I feel like if they hold this kind of start, it's gonna it's gonna be okay for them down the stretch. They could get themselves in the position where everyone thought they were gonna be coming into the year. And I think that's all we can ask for without Mitch, without Precious. And it's obviously It's gonna be a series of ups and downs until they do come back, but when they do come back, is the thing that I really want Knicks fans to focus on here. When they do come back, think about what this team can be. We're gonna get our defensive identity back. We're gonna get this style of play that we saw last year, that we've seen these past few years, this gritty, this heart, this just this New York drive that we've seen from the Knicks. And the attitude is outstanding when all of the players are back. And I feel like right now they could feel that they're missing something. And I feel like that's the thing that is holding them back a little bit. They feel like there is a piece missing, and that's kind of on the leaders of the team, like Jalen Brunson, like Josh Hart, to instill the factor of, hey, like we have these guys out. They had guys out in the playoffs last year, and we still saw them make it as far as they did. They need to instill that same energy that they have when everyone's in. And need to be like, "Hey, like, it might be a little bit rough right now, but it's gonna get better. It's gonna get better, and we can make it better right now if we want to." Let's see. So one thing I want to touch on too, before I get Keith on here, is the, news that came out about Cody Bellinger. Obviously, the GM meetings went down, and a lot of things are kept very quiet. No one really knows what goes on in those meetings. But one thing that's been kept not really a secret at all, that probably should have been, is the fact that the Cubs are shopping around Cody Bellinger and the Yankees are very interested. I feel like if we were to retain Juan Soto, Cody Bellinger would be slotted at first base, or maybe we would land up trading Jason Dominguez in a deal for Cody Bellinger, and we slot him in center, and we shift around the outfield a little bit. There are a lot of paths for the Yankees to take this all season, even if we weren't to retain Juan Soto. Obviously, Juan Soto is priority number one, and Hal has said that they have the ability to sign anyone they want. That's great. Quotes are quotes. I want to see it. I want to see action. I want to see the big bad Yankees I heard about all of my life that I feel like I've never seen outside of when the Yankees signed Garrett Cole. I feel like that was the only time I saw the Yankees actually use their financial wealth and their financial standing to go out and get the player they wanted. And I need to see it. I need to see it this all season. They're talking about all these plan A's, plan B's. I just want to see it. I want to see it unfold. I want to see them go out there and get the players they want. I want no one to be in their way, no one to stop them. They have extra money this year. They had the bonus money from the World Series for getting there, and they have the bonus money for lending the Rays George Steinbrenner Field. This is their time to prove that they are still the big bad Yankees. It's their time, plain and simple. Whether it's going out and getting Cody Bellinger and Juan Soto or the plan B that they have, I don't care what it is. As long as I see the Yankees be the Yankees and go out there and get who they want. And obviously, who the fans want and who Hal says he wants is Juan Soto. And I feel like anything outside of not retaining Juan Soto would be considered a failure to the team. But I'm gonna hold it to them to the fact that if Juan Soto were to make some egregious amount of money, like $1 billion, let's say he were to sign for $1 billion, and I feel like even fans would understand that, okay, like that's not realistic. Let's pivot here. I want to see them have a good plan B, because I feel like what's been the Yankees' downfall is when they don't get their guy, which I feel like has been every all season, they don't have a solid plan B. I want to see them have a plan B this all season. All right, so I'm gonna get Keith set up here. All right. So I just gotta wait for him to come in, but until then, I guess I'll fill the time. Let's see what else we could talk about before he comes in, because obviously I have a lot of things to talk about with him. I think we could circle back to the Giants a little bit, and the fact that the the Giants really have obviously not been playing up to par. And I talked about Malik Neighbors and Tyrone Tracy, but I feel like this energy that I'm feeling from the Giants is not one of a winning culture, is not one of a team that deserves to win. And all I wanted to see on Sunday was the Giants go out and be competitive. I just wanted to see them give give the fans something to root for. And when you give the fans something to root for, I feel like that's all anyone ever asked for from their franchises, is to give us something to root for. Like, I get we're not gonna win. I think every Giants fan has come to terms with the fact that we're not gonna win, and but we need to see a lot of different players come through that we haven't seen. And obviously, we're building for the future here. We're not building for this year. We're building for the future, the next few years. I really don't think the Giants are going to be competitive until 2027. Because, like I said, next year I don't think they're going to go the quarterback route. I think they're going to land up drafting Travis Hunter out of Colorado, and I think that they are going to avoid the quarterback route this year. I think the quarterback they really want is Arch Manning. Obviously, Eli had such a great career with the Giants, but that if you're in a position to draft Arch Manning, we've obviously seen what he's done for Texas this year. It means that you're going to have another really disappointing season next year, which definitely is not something I think Giants fans even want to think of, because a lot of the seasons we've had in the past have been very disappointing. And it's just something that we need to keep in mind, is the fact that we're not going to be competitive this year, obviously, but we're definitely not going to be competitive next year either. We need to look forward to the future, but the Giants can't just give us this team that obviously is going to be disappointing. They need to give us something to root for. They need to give us some sort of winning attitude. And the only player I see that from is Malik Neighbors. And to see him kind of by himself, alone, and on the bench there in the wide receiver meeting was the most disappointing thing to me, because you're making the one player on the team that might have a winning attitude have that same loser mentality the other players have. All right. Getting him on here in a second. He said he's running a little behind. That's okay though. So I'm just gonna go on to Yankees Twitter quickly to fill the time. And let's see. I want to see what the rest of Yankees Twitter is feeling like right now. give us a little bit of a standing for maybe some talking points I could talk to with Keith. Give me 1 second. Yo, can you hear me? Yo, Keith, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're coming in great. How you doing, buddy?
All right, I just oh, okay. I'm taking care of my son because
Oh,
my nanny's in Brazil for the holiday, and my studio setup isn't right, so I'm in my car. If that's okay.
yeah, no, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I get it. Um, so obviously, I mentioned earlier I was gonna have Keith on. Keith's the nighttime radio host for WFAN from 7 to midnight, KM to AM. So the first thing I want to talk to you about was Dave Sims. Your opinion on Dave Sims. I've seen you're really in favor of the hiring of Dave Sims as the new broadcaster for the Yankees. Can I get your opinions on that?
Yeah, I didn't even realize we were already live. I thought I might be in a little backstage green room, but I know college radio you don't always have those. Anyway, hello everyone. Dave Sims is an OG. He was on New York radio doing sports talk before I was born. He was doing the midday show at WMCA in New York. He actually was one of the first people that reached out to me when I got the gig at WFAN to congratulate me. And we hadn't known each other, but just an older black man seeing a younger black man get that opportunity when those opportunities haven't been available for us. He reached out, and I really appreciated that. And then fast forward 2 years, I was able to go out with the Players Alliance to the All-Star game in Seattle, which was 2023. And he calls the games, or he used to call the games for the Mariners. So the Players Alliance actually did a dinner where he was one of the people that they honored for his contributions to, the Seattle Mariners games, and just being one of the few black voices that call games. I think across the country, you can count on one hand how many black broadcasters there are in TV and radio. And Dave was doing TV and radio out there for them in the Pacific Northwest. I think he's going to be great at this. I think he's happy to be home. I wasn't sure if he would leave what he built out in Seattle. And what I learned was that he doesn't stay out in Seattle. He's only there for the home games. He
Oh, that's
travels with the
interesting.
team, and then when he has breaks, he stays here in New York. So once I learned that he was actually still here in New York and he was getting the opportunity to come home, it made perfect sense. I'm super excited for him. And I'm super excited to maybe join him. Maybe I sit in for Susan Waldman again, like I did last year. And I don't know, maybe you hear anything from me with him in the pregame or postgame stuff. My show comes on after the Yankees postgame every night.
Yeah, that's something I was going to mention. Obviously, you filled in for Susan last year, and I think a lot of fans enjoyed that. I definitely did. The bleachers did the roll call for you, and everything. But some fans are still a little upset about this Dave Sims hiring, and that we didn't go internal to someone that might have been filling in, like Ricky Ricardo filled in last year, Justin Shackle filled in. They had a lot of names fill in. What do you say to the fans that aren't in favor of this hiring?
Well, first off, everybody needs to know that no matter what happens in this world, somebody's going to love it, somebody's going to hate it. There's always going to be critics, there's always going to be skeptics. You can't please everyone. And the Yankees weren't aiming to please everyone. The Yankees were looking to continue the professionalism of their broadcast, which reaches so many people across the country when the Yankees play. And an icon like John Sterling is irreplaceable. Shout out to Justin Shackle, who I sat in with when I filled in for Susan Waldman. I sat in and he was doing the play-by-play. He is a pro's pro, but he's the same age as me. He's 35 going on 36.
and he's got a long career ahead of him. He also does Yes Network stuff. So he kind of is on TV, radio, has his hands in both things. Also, shout out to Emmanuel Barbari, who's another young guy, came out of the same school that Justin Shackle came out of, Fordham, and their program, which is a pipeline with, Jack Curry and Michael Kay and Mike Breen and Vin Scully. There's so many people, Ryan Rucco, that have come out of Fordham. But what I'll say about the young guys and them not going internal is those guys aren't ready to be the guy yet. They need to work on their chops. They need to build their name, their following. They cannot compare to what we're going to get from a day in and day out basis from Dave Sims. Now, Ricky Ricardo, sensational. Ricky's such a good guy. I've talked to Ricky so much about his career, his past, working in music, and just kind of, doing all types of things. He also calls football games for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm sure he was having a blast calling that game last night. But if you take Ricky Ricardo and put him on the Yankees broadcast full time with Susan Waldman, you'll have a harder time finding the replacement on the Espanol Yankees baseball. You'll have a harder time finding a Spanish-speaking broadcaster to fill Ricky's shoes than you would finding someone to fill John Sterling's shoes.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I feel like fans need to take a look at what Dave Sims has done. Obviously, he had some sensational calls with the Mariners there. But I'm gonna move on to the other topic since we are a little constrained for time. So, Keith, you've been a huge advocate of don't play Frank after a loss. I have experienced multiple devastating losses, notably when the Astros swept the Yankees in the ALCS and they still played New York after. I'm a huge fan of this. And what do you think the fan base in general has to say about that?
I look at Frank Sinatra, New York as our win song. When I've been to the north side of Chicago to see Cubs games, when the Cubs win, they fly the W. They put up that flag with the big blue W on it, and they play Go Cubs Go, and the whole ballpark sings it together. Now, in New York, when we win, like that one game we won against the Dodgers, that bullpen game in Game 4 to not get swept, it was amazing to hear that New York crowd sing, New York, New York. But man, why do we have to do what we do for the tourists, which is play it every single game? It's like an attraction. It's almost like a Disneyland type of thing, like a theme park. Like, thanks for coming. Here's New York on your way out. Now, what I've said to people, and I've documented it, I was there when the Dodgers beat us in the regular season. I was there when the Dodgers beat us in the World Series. How about we use that one as the worst example in recent memory? You collapse in the fifth inning. The Dodgers beat you. They run on the field. They're celebrating their World Series championship. And the soundtrack to that forever is Frank Sinatra, New York. It's something that we get trolled with. Other fans cannot wait to raise their phones and take a selfie-style video saying start spreading them L's and just mocking us. And I think it's a simple thing for the Yankees to do, which, like, think about your fans and your home crowd more than the tourism, more than the people that are there for one night. Just don't play anything after we lose or figure out something else. Now, once upon a time, supposedly there was a Liza Minnelli version, which was a different sounding version that they would play. And then Liza Minnelli and her estate said, we don't want to be the lose song. So they just made it Frank. The differentiating thing that they added this year was John Sterling. The Yankees win. Yankees win. But to me, that's cool that they brought that back since John retired. Keep Frank when we win, when we lose. Dead silence, drive home safely.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely the consensus from the fan base there is we don't want to hear Frank after we lose. Most teams have a win song. They don't have a lose song. And for a team that is supposed to be rooted in winning over anything else, obviously you don't win the World Series, it's a failure. I think most fans can agree with that. That it's just disappointing to see a fan base that's so rooted in winning still playing Frank after a loss.
Got it, Landon. It's all about the 27 championships and the most winning is franchise. And okay, well, if that's the song you play and your fans sing it after wins, do us a favor and don't play it after we lose. I think it's a small request. I've got t-shirts and hoodies now that people are buying. that say a simple phrase: "Don't play Frank when we lose." Like, just remove that for us. Do us a favor next year. The drought is over from getting back to the World Series. Let 2025 be the year we get back to the World Series and win it. And I think it would help if you stop playing Frank Sinatra after losses.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think that could be overstated. I definitely have to get myself one of those shirts or hoodies. I'm gonna shift a little bit because I think the thing I want to end with is Juan Soto, because obviously that's a huge topic. I want to talk about the Jets a little bit, and obviously they've been very disappointing, and you've been very vocal about what you think the Jets have done wrong and how the Aaron Rodgers era has been a complete and utter failure for them.
Yeah, I just never thought it was really going to work. You know, I struggle with it because I'm on the Fan, New York Sports, and I'm not a fan of the Jets. I'm not a fan of the Giants. I'm not a fan of the Mets. So when I speak about these teams and I give it to you straight and I tell you what I really feel, people are like, "Oh, you're a hater, you're a troll." No. I just don't believe. I never believed, and really, I never believed Aaron Rodgers was going to be successful here because of the way that the Packers showed him the door. He is arguably the greatest Packer of all time. When you look at the wins, the playoff appearances, the one Super Bowl, the multiple MVPs, like, you can stack him up as potentially, when it's all said and done, like, he will go back to Lambeau and they will regard him as the greatest Packer ever. On the way out, it was like they couldn't get rid of him fast enough, right? They drafted Jordan Love and he won multiple MVPs while Jordan Love was on the team, and they still were ready to show him the door. They were over his antics. They were over him being a diva. They were over him putting himself before the team, promoting different types of things that he likes to do, and off the field things that don't have anything to do with winning. And here we are now. You pair that with Woody Johnson, a meddling owner. You pair that with Rob Saleh, a guy that was in over his head at head coach. It's not a recipe for success. Back-to-back years here, they have failed. And both years, there were Super Bowl expectations. And I got on the radio and I said, take it easy. Let's crawl before we walk. Can they at least end the now 14-year drought without making the playoffs? Like, they're not going to win the Super Bowl. They're not going to get to the Super Bowl. The goal should be to get to the playoffs and let the chips fall where they may. And again, they're not going to get there. And now I cannot wait till they meet the media this week. We're hearing everything on the Giants. I cannot wait to hear from the Jets. Aaron Rodgers was just out at Cal, I think. Or at least I saw a picture of him out at Cal. Maybe he wasn't. Was he out there because it was the bye week?
Yeah, he was out there. I saw the same photo.
He was out there. Okay, so now he's got to come back to New York, and they got to figure stuff out. And there's rumors that he may want to be released. There's rumors that he may be benched. So here we go, Jets fans. Jets and Giants football is in a terrible place at the same time.
Yeah, it's in a very terrible place, and it's very disappointing to me because the team that I saw win the most championships in my lifetime was the Giants in 2012 and 2008, I think it was, or 2007.
Yeah, 2007 season, 2011 season, but those Super Bowls were in the year 2008, 2012.
Yeah, and that's just disappointing to me because I feel like both teams are in a similar spot where they're trying to kind of just keep their fan base into it. I saw a lot of Giants fans go out yesterday. I spoke on it a little earlier, and they were excited to see Tommy DeVito, which to me was completely ridiculous because the guy's nothing more than a high school quarterback. And then you upset your best player and your future and Malik Neighbors, your draft number 6, your number 6 overall draft pick. You're doing the same thing you did with Odell all over again.
Yeah, it's a mess over there. It's one giant mess, and they're going to go through the motions for another month. So Giants fans got to sit through this for another month. They're going to lose games. They may win one, but ultimately they were never going to allow Daniel Jones to get hurt and trigger that clause in his contract and have that injury guarantee get him money. So you knew that was inevitable. But I think it came here at the bye week. They're now 2-9, but at the bye week, if you're 2-8, you should bench the quarterback anyway. You should try something else anyway. And the thing is, they don't have better options in that building. Drew Lock is not much of a better option. Tommy DeVito, obviously, they elevated from 3rd to first and skipped over Drew Lock. And there's just a lot of questionable moves. I just was reading Connor Hughes talk about how Darius Slayton didn't have a catch yesterday. They could have traded him at the deadline. Azeez Ojulari is hurt and not impactful. They could have traded him at the deadline. Both of those guys are going to walk at the end of the year. You're watching Saquon on Sunday Night Football. He's incredible. They're saying he's the MVP. He's definitely Offensive Player of the Year, if not MVP. And they let him walk and let him go to the Eagles. I understand not valuing a running back, but he's your running back. He's the guy you drafted 2 overall. You can't let him go to your division rival. It's a mess. They could have traded him last year at the deadline, but they didn't want to break up the locker room. For what? To win a bunch of games that put you at the 6th pick and not the 2 pick or 3 pick where you could have picked your quarterback of the future. I think that Shane and Dable are 2 guys who they are football guys. They know a lot of football, but they are very much in their first opportunity here running a football team. And because of the first year success, winning a playoff game, winning Coach of the Year, they've made a ton of mistakes since then. They inherited David Gettleman's team, and they've absolutely fumbled it away. Xavier McKinney's leading the league in interceptions. If you saw that game yesterday with the Packers and the Niners, he's another one where it's like, this guy could have helped you. You guys, they don't pick up the ball. And they have no interceptions.
Yeah,
these guys, they struggle to make tackles. Like, you could have used Xavier McKinney, but you devalued the safety position, you devalued the running back position, you devalued 2 guys who were core members, captains of your team the year before. Let them walk, and look where you're at.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like they were so focused on getting their own talent and their own team, and they were selfish in that aspect. It's kind of like the fact that Brian Cashman is keeping Aaron Boone around because Aaron Boone was like his first chance at having his own guy. And I feel like that's what they were trying to do there, was get their own guys, and it's completely blown up in their face.
Yeah, Boone managed them to a World Series, but he made some mistakes in that World Series and all of those games pretty much. And yeah, he's always going to be safe because he was handpicked by Cashman. Aaron Boone has never managed another team anywhere, so they're attached at the hip. You're right with that. It's business, man. And a lot of business decisions get made, good and bad. A lot of decisions get made for other reasons besides the bottom line. And, ultimately, they got to live with that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, they're even talking about extending Aaron Boone. I feel like as a fan base, we need to move on from the fact that Aaron Boone is going to be our manager. It's not all on him. It's on the players, too, on the field to play to their expectations. And we just need to move on from the fact of looking elsewhere for a manager and just come to terms with the fact that Aaron Boone is our manager and we need to support our guys. And the fact that even fans were thinking of booing Boone and Judge in the World Series were abysmal to me.
Yeah, those are internet fans, though, bro. Those are people who, like I saw you at the game in the postseason. You and your dad, like you go to the games. Like you've seen me in Yankee Stadium multiple times. The fans talking about booing, that's a small pocket of fans on the internet that aren't really in there. And even if they are in there, they're nowhere near the field where anyone can hear them. I have learned to separate the Yankees Twitter crowd from the Yankee Stadium crowd. It is completely different from stadium goers and just these angry, nasty fans that are anonymously using their thumbs too much. But anyway, yeah, the Yankees went to the World Series. I just keep trying to remind people that Aaron Boone got you back to the World Series. Aaron Boone was the manager that helped end the drought. Aaron Judge loves Aaron Boone. They are attached at the hip. Yeah, you might be mad at Judge where people are actually talking down his MVP. No, he won that MVP. Aaron Judge won his second MVP. He should have 3 MVPs. And I think he's going to get at least another 1 or 2. And when we look back on it, we're going to talk about 4-time MVP Aaron Judge, and no one's going to talk about him dropping that pop-up. He is a legendary player. He just has to get it done in October. And I think they're going to be in October for every single year coming up. And if you look at the American League, why can't they represent the American League in the next 1, 2, 3 World Series? If they re-sign Juan Soto, they get better at certain spots like first base, left field, pitching. The Yankees could go back to back to back World Series appearances. And I think if you get there, all it takes is 1 win to erase the negative history that we just lived through.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we saw the drought of going to the World Series. We've gotten over that hurdle now, and I think now we just need to realize priority number 1 is signing Juan Soto. obviously we have a lot of things coming out from the media. I just saw earlier that executives believe that the Mets are the favorite. I really don't believe anything until I see it from a few credible
That
guys like Passan and
that's a tactic, Landon. That's strategical. You know why? Because he was already a Yankee. He's going to lean Yankees. He's going to lean towards staying with the MVP and Aaron Judge, lean towards not leaving half the fans in New York that he already played in front of. So in the media, you got to make it seem like he's going to leave. In the media, you got to make it seem like he's leaning towards the Mets to drive the cost up with the Yankees. Fear is a huge motivation. Hal Steinbrenner showed no fear last week talking about we can sign any player that we want. I have ears. I know what's expected of me. We're in the mix. Like he let people know that they are trying to retain Juan Soto. Now everybody's been saying, oh, Steve Cohen will not be outbid. That conversation died down a little bit when Hal Steinbrenner came out there to say we can sign any player we want to sign, because that's basically saying any baseball contract drawn up, AAV, average annual value, years, there is no baseball player out there that can sign a contract that we can't match. So it's tactical. Don't believe anything until it's Jeff Passan putting it out, until it's someone credible putting it out as like, boom, whatever team, X amount of years, X amount of dollars for Juan Soto. And I think we're close. I think that's going to be next week. This is Thanksgiving week. I think they get it done next week, the first week of December, before we get to the winter meetings, because there's other players that need to be sorted out under Scott Boras during those winter meetings when all of the teams and executives are together.
And talking about Scott Boras too, he had a really disappointing offseason last offseason. So he's trying to now put himself back where he's known for getting the players the best contracts they could possibly get. And by him I think he is in contact with a lot of people in the media and leaks out some of these things on purpose, like you said. And this is a guy where he knows what he wants. He knows the number in his head that he's willing to settle for, but he's never going to say it out loud. Like the Yankees are never going to say out loud what they want to sign Juan Soto for. They're just going to let the negotiations happen, and we just have to sit here as fans and kind of deal with it. Obviously, offers, I think they said, are going to start this week. And just as fans, we kind of just got to sit back and enjoy the ride. I mean, we saw it with Judge. We saw it with Cole the past few years. You can't really trust anything that's put out there.
Yeah, I've kind of hit it two ways. One, be prepared for him to leave. It's a personal choice, and there is a chance that Steve Cohen will not be deterred, and every million, 5 million, 10, whatever it is, if he's willing to go up until Hal Steinbrenner says uncle and taps out, be prepared for Juan Soto and Scott Boras to take that contract, get every dollar, but also be prepared for the Yankees to stay in the fight, because there's enough reports out there that Hal Steinbrenner is going to be competitive. He's going to fight for this player. It makes too much sense for his brand. Hal Steinbrenner came out and said, we have more financial flexibility than we've ever had. I know what I said about it not being feasible, sustainable, but I can do pretty much what I have to do. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. Enjoy the ride, like you said, but I know there's a lot of Yankee fans that can't stop thinking about it, and a lot of people have called my show to ask me for plan B. I said, there is no plan B. Plan A is sign Juan Soto. And then if that doesn't happen, we can talk about plan B. And either way, we move. Either way, the goal is to get back to the World Series.
Yeah, we can't be thinking about a plan B. We have to think of, we get Juan Soto, what do we do after we get Juan Soto? Not what happens if we don't get him. Like Christian Walker, I think, is a great guy at first base that we could look at. He's been an undervalued player for years, and I think now that he's a free agent, his value is just starting to come out there. But there's a lot of players out there. Cody Bellinger, apparently it came out that it was one of the few things in the GM meetings that wasn't kept a secret very well, was the fact that the Cubs wanted to trade Cody Bellinger. There's a lot of options out there for them to improve outside of retaining Juan Soto.
Yeah, and something else we heard from Hal Steinbrenner and his meeting with Juan Soto, which they said was the first real time that Hal Steinbrenner and Juan Soto got to connect and sit down for that long face-to-face, because Hal gave him his space during the season. Something we learned is that Hal told him about plans to do more. That, no, we're not just going to sign you this offseason. We're going to sign you and we're going to add more. They've got the taste in their mouth of hosting a World Series. They did not get swept. So they got to play all 3 games in Yankee Stadium. And you know what? It ended terribly. They have to bring back Juan Soto. They have to improve and get back there. It's the only way to get that taste out of your mouth.
Yeah. Actually, one thing I wanted to touch on too before we go off air is your journey to get where you were. I know a lot of people that listen to the show here are college students, and your journey. I've seen you tweet out recently about how the experience you've got in the media, and obviously bouncing from one college to, and then you went to, was it you graduated from, or you started at JMU?
Yeah, so I took my football scholarship to play quarterback at James Madison University. That's the school I wanted to go to strictly for football. I went there undeclared. I didn't know what I was going to major in, but I learned a lot there. I learned how hard college football is. I learned how hard college is. I learned how trying to balance, being a student athlete and a party boy just does not work. Like, you don't have the amount of time in a day to do it all, and you got to really focus. And I was not focused there, so I left. And when I went home, I had to go to a community college for a semester because I kind of left abruptly, and I didn't have it lined up to enroll. And then when I did transfer, I transferred to Monmouth University to play football, but I had eyes on their communication department. So this time around, I wasn't just picking the school for football like I did coming out of high school. Now I knew that, okay, this second half of my college time, I have to graduate. I have to have a degree. I have to have a focus. I have to have an idea of who I am and what I want to do and a plan of attack. And since they had a radio station on campus, WMCX 88.9 FM radio, and since they had Hawk TV Studios, which was a TV studio literally right underneath the radio station in the same building that was shown on campus at study halls and the dining hall and different lounges, I'm like, boom, that's what I'm going to do. I know I'm not going pro in the NFL, but I can use my athleticism and my football skills to pay for school. And I ended up getting so deep into the radio club and the radio major and the communication major and the TV major that I didn't care for football anymore. So my 5th year, I gave back my scholarship. I would have been a 5th year senior because I redshirted at James Madison University. But my 5th year, I was like, what's the point in being hurt, getting tackled, having to lift weights, having to run at 6 a.m, having to go to, no, I'm like, they can take this scholarship. I'll take out loans and I'm going to get out of here as fast as I can. So I took summer courses and I got out of there that next fall. And it was the best decision I ever made because I wouldn't be where I am right now, especially being Black, without that college degree. I would not be where I am now with plenty of experience, hours on hours of radio shows on WFAN, Market 1, the #1 market in radio, the first 24/7 sports radio network. Like I would not be here without the change that I had in school and going after that degree, and the change that I had in my career, because I was a social media manager. I was a digital marketing manager, social media guy, doing marketing behind the scenes, and I was unfulfilled. I felt like a peasant. I felt like a peon. I felt like, a young guy working in a company that they would just tell to post and tell me to, schedule posts and keep our feed current and not really value my ideas and not really celebrate my work. I just was like, almost like a little robot. And I knew there was more for me. So I kind of jumped out of the window and I quit those jobs. And I noticed that social media and YouTube and podcasts were really blowing up in like 2017, 2018. And I started to dip my toe into those waters. And it did not take me as long as I thought. I thought it was going to take 10 years. It took about 3. And then fast forward now, I've been on the radio for 3 years. So like this is going well. But at the same time, I'm not content. At this point in my life, I just see so much more. I'm just so hungry. I'm just consistently pushing. And my message to anyone that hears this, and even yourself, Landon, you obviously know, like, I think the world of you, bro. Like, just,
Thank you.
You being a fan of me and you saying that you went to school because I inspired you, like you chose radio because of me. Like, I'll never forget that. And I'm going to keep blazing a trail so that you can stay inspired and you can keep blazing a trail in your own right. So my message to everyone out there is it's a long road. It's not going to be easy. But you got to have faith in yourself and you got to put the work in. You're a product of the work that you do. You're a product of the effort that you show. Nothing's going to be handed to you, but it's a winding road, and you can't always see where the road is leading you. But if you wake up every day and you stack wins and you put a little bit more into it every single day, you'll get there.
Yeah, you're one of the best guys out there, and I know you have a bright future ahead of you, even though you've already made it further than I even expect myself to get to. And you're just such an inspiration to everyone out there. And I just want to say thank you for coming on, and thank you for always being open for conversations and everything. My mom actually texted me. She has 2 people at her job, Frankie and Nick from CPW, that are pretty constant listeners of you, and they really enjoy you.
Shout out to them. I appreciate it. I'm off tonight, but I'll be back on 7 to 12 for the 5-hour KM to AM on Tuesday, then like a quick bridge show 7 to 9 on Wednesday, and then a special Sunday show 12 to 3. Man, I appreciate everybody. I'm a regular dude. I'm a dude, that was not supposed to win, that still has challenges and odds set against him, but I'm just consistent, and I push, and I work, and I try to treat people right. So, yeah, I've always got time for you, man. I don't have time for everybody. Don't get me wrong, but I answer your messages, and I'm proud of you. And you asked me to come on your radio show, and I'm glad I could find time to do that for you today.
All right, thank you, Keith. I'm gonna let you go because I know you have a lot to do. Thank you so much again. I'll definitely be in contact with you. Thank you so much. It means so much to me.
Landon, you're the man. Keep working hard, buddy. Have a good Thanksgiving. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you. You too. Happy Thanksgiving. All right. So that's all I have for today. Obviously, a great show for me. I got to have one of my great friends in Keith Mcpherson on. He's one of the best trailblazers out there. He obviously talked a lot about his journey and what got him to the top. And it's definitely great for a bunch of people being at a college radio station to have a guy like him talk about what got him there. Thank you. This is Empire State of Sports signing off.